Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So, as Trudy mentioned, part of the objective of this session is also to consider whether a sectoral approach to regional integration could be considered, could be adopted as a new pathway for regional integration. So I wish to focus on road transport in particular. I would argue that yes, it is possible to adopt a sectoral approach. The Tripartite FTA agenda is anchored on 3 pillars of development. Market integration, infrastructure development, and industrial development. Now, for example, the market integration pillar focuses also on trade facilitation issues. So from a transport perspective, this is very important because it can reduce the cost of doing business and increase competition. Infrastructure focuses on the development and improvement of physical infrastructure, but in particular road infrastructure. This is also important for the transport sector because it enhances connectivity and the efficiency of network services such as rail networks, road networks, and so on. But however, the effective use of physical infrastructure must be complemented by appropriate policy and regulatory infrastructure, as well as the cooperation between cross-border agencies in order to avoid policy and institutional silos. The third pillar, the industrial development pillar, is vital to link integrated markets or regional value chains. Now, transport, like telecommunications and energy services, provide a horizontal service which benefits the whole economy. Not only the production of goods, but also other services. So, transport services, but in particular, logistic services, are critical inputs into the production process, all the way along the line to the finalization of the end product. But also, it provides a service or other services linked to the sales and after sales of products. Okay, so the services sector should be viewed as both an input and output of manufacturing. Now this brings us to the second phase of the negotiations, focusing on the liberalization of services, and that will take us behind the border to the removal of specific regulatory restrictions on transport services, such as quotas, cabotage, third country rule, etc. But also to liberalize parts of the transport sector to regional competition. Okay, so transport is linked to both phases of the negotiations, but also to all 3 pillars of the agenda. The question is whether this fragmented approach is appropriate in a contemporary global economy. Now, I wish to take or use the example of existing transport corridors to illustrate that an integrated or a comprehensive approach could serve or be used as the basis of a new approach to integration. Now, the success of corridors as transport routes is undisputed. I can take the example of the Maputo development corridor, just to illustrate the complexity of issues that are involved, and of course the importance of governance instruments to facilitate this process and to make it possible. During, I think it was in 1996, the governments of South Africa and Mozambique, through their national road agencies or bodies, concluded various agreements with a concession holder to develop and a toll road linking the port of Maputo with the industrial hub of South Africa, Gauteng. Now, in terms of the concession agreement, the concession holder must develop and maintain the infrastructure for the period of 30 years. After that period, it must hand over essentially a new road to the respective governments. According to the agreement, the concession holder can then, during that time, charge toll fees to manage and to operate the system. However, the concession holder does not have law enforcement powers. So in order to prevent damage caused to the road infrastructure caused, as a result of overloading of vehicles, the government or the governments had to build weight bridges. Those bridges are operated by the concession holder. And the traffic officers that are deployed to those weight bridges to enforce the law is provided by the provincial and local governments. So you see, you need, it's a complexity of issues, and you need cooperation between different levels of government and between not only the private sector and the government, but also other stakeholders. Because in the case of the Maputo corridor, a non-for-profit organization was established to facilitate dialogue between the private sector stakeholder and the government, but also other stakeholders and users of the corridor. Okay? This, of course, must be, you need a legal framework to implement this. So South Africa, or the Parliament of South Africa, adopted a Cross-Border Road Agency Act. It also established a Cross-Border Road Agency to not only issue permits for the cross-border transportation of passengers and freight, but also to coordinate or to assist in the development and the establishment of cross-border agencies. Of course, the legislative mandate of the agency is also underpinned by South Africa's international legal obligations in terms of the SADC Memorandum of Understanding on road transportation and, of course, the SADC Protocol on Transportation. Now, I wish to highlight just a few things in the SADC Protocol. First of all, it provides for the harmonization of a whole range of regulatory issues. Progress has been made on some of them, but not on all of them. That's the first thing. Secondly, it proposes the full liberalization or market access. But there are no time frames specified in the protocol. However, it provides that the member states must negotiate or conclude a multilateral agreement to achieve this objective. Now, of course, the SADC Services Protocol is the answer to this. The member states must schedule their obligations in terms of the SADC Transport Protocol in their specific schedules of commitments to make it legally binding. And if any of the member states do not implement their market access commitments, the other state parties can then follow the dispute settlement procedures or mechanism provided for in the SADC Services Protocol. The other thing I wish to highlight about the Transport Protocol is that it provides for the establishment of cross-border management committees. Now, these committees are cross-border institutions that should facilitate cross-border issues. Now, the Maputo Corridor Logistics Initiative, that non-for-profit organization, is an example of one of these cross-border management committees. There are also others. Some work better than others. Okay, so basically what I was trying, and then of course, how do you then deal with non-compliance? Because there are a number of obligations in terms of the SADC Transport Protocol. It provides for the establishment of a body that should monitor the implementation of the protocol. Any party, any state party, but also a private person, can bring a complaint to that body. And then the protocol provides for a specific mechanism to deal with problems, with those problems. It can elevate the problem to a senior official level, and from there to the Council of Ministers. But if they cannot find a solution, then that is basically the end of the road for the private person who laid the complaint in the first place. And then it would be up to one of the member states to take the matter to the Dispute Settlement Tribunal, which doesn't exist. So I think that is one of the if we consider such an approach to integration, that is one issue that should be further investigated. How these cross-border agencies could be improved, and how to deal with the settlement of disputes. But I try to just to briefly highlight some of the complexities involved in corridor developments. Regional economic development can benefit extensively from such an integration approach, but without successful development and maintenance of infrastructure, the improvement of border crossings, and my colleague will elaborate on that in the next session, the optimal functioning of ports and very specific governance instruments, regional integration will seriously be compromised. Thank you.